want the Lifebringer.
Is that the Lifebringer?
Yes.
Sorry, He-Man, haven't seen it. Somehow I don't think he believed me.
I've mentioned before that I was very much a fan of Kobra Khan, the Skeletor henchman who was introduced during He-Man's second season. Unfortunately, Khan only had a total of 7 episode appearances throughout He-Man's run, and he didn't even get further appearances on She-Ra, unlike a lot of other Season 2 debuting henchmen. Nevertheless, I thought it would be fun to give a run-through of all of Khan's appearances. Now, I have already covered 2 of these, the Cold Zone, which was also the final episode of He-Man, and The Good Shall Survive, one of the worst episodes of the series, so I'll just skip over those and link to the appropriate videos. Possibly the worst appearance by the character is in the episode The Secret of Grayskull, where he's literally just been reduced to a background character. The episode itself is very interesting, but since Khan doesn't do a whole lot in it, I think I'll save this for a future review video. Now, interestingly, Khan's first appearance was actually in the episode Disappearing Dragons. I've mentioned this episode before, briefly, since this was one of the 4 episode appearances of Granomir. The episode begins with He-Man being summoned to Dark Smoke, because dragons from Dragon Mountain have been going missing. It turns out that Kobra Khan and Webstore are behind the disappearances. They battle it out with Mekaneck and Buzza for a while until He-Man shows up. The machine that was used on the dragon shoots all of them with a beam except Orko and transports them to another world. Here it's revealed that Khan and Webstore were selling dragons to the inhabitants of the other dimension who wish to make the dragons fight for their amusement. They strike a deal with He-Man that the heroes and dragons will be let go if He-Man can defeat their mighty robot. In the meanwhile, Orko tells Granomir what happened and he fixes the beam so they can follow He-Man. Granomir helps out He-Man in the battle and the bad guys are caught. However, at the end, Granomir wishes to force the inhabitants of the other world to fight for his enjoyment as punishment, but He-Man points out that doing so would make Granomir no better than they are, and so the dragons simply destroy the arena. Disappearing Dragons is mostly interesting for a lot of its action content, and I do like the fact that Khan gets to use both his Sleeping Mist and Stretchy Arm powers. However, I'm not perhaps the biggest fan of the character combinations in this episode. I like that Khan starts off as an independent villain here, but I can't really see why he's being teamed up with Webstore, other than the fact that they are both Season 2 villains. Also, Mekaneck and Buzza take the forefront, but if I have to say something positive about Buzza, for once, he's not completely unbearable in this episode. The fight between the He-Man allies and the villains is really good, as is the fight between He-Man and the robot, although in the end it looks like He-Man just finishes the job with a single punch. Probably the thing that annoys me the most about this episode is how it depicts Granomir. It's interesting since this was the last of the Granomir episodes to be written by Larry DiTillio, who also created the character, but this has to be the worst depiction of him by far. He's just incredibly cocky and belittling, especially of Orko, whom he meets for the first time in this episode. And though Granomire's always praising He-Man's wisdom, I kinda hate that it's He-Man who has to talk him out of punishing the dragon kidnappers. We know that Granomir can be a pretty petty bastard based on his first appearance in Dragon's Gift, but this went a little overboard for me. However, Disappearing Dragons is still a fun action episode if nothing else. The Kobra Khan Webster duo was seen again in the episode Journey to Stone City, where Adam, Duncan, and Orko are looking for the mysterious Stone City and are being pursued by the trio of Evil Lyn, Webstore, and Khan. Orko goes off and pisses off a talking tree who accidentally throws a complete map to the city at them. The villains nab it and manage to make it to Stone City before the heroes, where they accidentally revive the city's champion. However, earlier, Evil Lyn transported the machine called the Lifebringer to Snake Mountain with her magic. The Lifebringer is the only thing that can wake up the citizens of Stone City who have been turned into statues. When the villains get their asses kicked, Evil Lyn tells a quick fib and manages to get the hero to attack Grayskull. But of course, He-Man intervenes, leading to Evil Lyn retreating to Snake Mountain. He-Man and the hero join forces to get the Lifebringer back, which they do because Skeletor doesn't want to fight, because he wasn't included in Evil Lyn's plot in the first place. Now, as for this episode's depiction of Kobra Khan, it's not particularly great. He and Webstore are just goons following Evil Lyn's orders, the same way Triclops did in Season 1. However, it's interesting how bluntly Evil Lyn states that she intends to keep the treasures of Stone City for herself, showing her at probably her most ruthless in the entire series. At the same time, this is a slightly silly episode. The dialogue that Evil Lyn and Skeletor have is just super hilarious.
Does it belong to anyone?
No. On second thought, yes.
We also see a rare instance of Skeletor assigning an actual punishment for his henchman's disobedience, leading to a really funny end note for the episode.
Get to work! I like it!
There's also a pretty interesting scene at the start where the heroes are trapped with Adam not being able to transform. However, beyond some of these cool elements, Journey to Stone City is by and large just another red herring episode where the villains try to turn another right-minded character against He-Man. I've never been a huge fan of these types of episodes, and the She-Demon of Phantos is probably the best episode with this plot setup. But it does have enough novel elements to be worth seeing. Another interesting episode where Kobra Khan sadly has a very minimal role is the episode Fraidy Cat. In it, the villains knock out everyone at the palace and kidnap Queen Marlena. Cringer happened to be in the same room as the Queen when the kidnapping happened, and he is feeling super guilty. He-Man, Duncan, and Teela follow a trail left by Clawful and Whiplash, but Cringer catches the Queen's scent and realizes that the heroes have been led astray, so he and Orko go after the Queen. Now, Skeletor's big plan involves getting the heroes out in the open so that they can be attacked by his robotic attack falcon, Screech. Cringer and Orko make it to Snake Mountain before everyone else, save the Queen, and then Cringer goes off to warn the heroes, being given a magic charm by Orko so he won't be afraid. Cringer stops Screech from attacking the heroes and is awarded for his courage. Now, unfortunately, Kobra Khan only plays a big part at the start of this episode, and after he knocks everyone out, there's really not much else going on with him. He doesn't even get to take part in the final battle in this episode. I think this episode demonstrates a common problem with Season 2 episodes, which is that Skeletor just has way too many henchmen running around. However, you might remember this as the episode I recommended in my top 10 He-Man characters list because it really depicts Cringer as the hero for once. You really feel sorry for him, and he does a lot of crazy things while trying to help the heroes. The scene between him and the ghost inside Snake Mountain is slightly goofy, but it's actually a pretty fun moment too. Another reason I love this episode is that despite the fact that it features the Dragon Walker, easily the dumbest He-Man vehicle of the show, very prominently, I get the feeling the episode writers intentionally planned every scene in this episode in a way that shows what a completely useless vehicle it really is.
If we hurry, we can catch them.
We'll take the Dragon Walker.
Hurry! They're getting away!
We'll never catch them now.
You gotta hand it to Filmation, even they knew how stupid this shit was. Also, we get to see little baby mermen. That's a little disgusting. So while this isn't a great Kobra Khan episode per se, it's still a really fun episode and definitely worth a watch. Then finally we have the episode The Magic Falls, which again is more about Orko rather than Kobra Khan per se, but I would still say this is the second best appearance outside the Cold Zone. The episode's plot concerns Eternia Day, when the king has a reception for all the people where they can present requests for the king, and it's the only time of the year when they take out the Scepter of Power. Skeletor wants the scepter, and Evil Lyn proposes that one of his minions could infiltrate the palace on Eternia Day disguised as a peasant. However, they're worried that Orko's magic could expose them, and so Skeletor and Evil Lyn zap his magic away. So I don't know what the hell they were worried about, since Orko did diddly-dick in the Dragon's Gift when Skeletor was in a disguise. Adam promises to help Orko find the Magic Falls, which could restore his magic, and this leads them to an underground cavern where they meet the Gatekeeper, who can take them to any number of dimensions. Now, I could complain about this episode's plot and how the Scepter of Power is never seen or mentioned in any other episode. However, what I do like is that the whole point of the scepter refers to Adam and Randor's relationship, and how the king is worried Adam will not attend the ceremony, thinking that he doesn't take his royal duties seriously enough. It's a strong enough of a character point that I'm willing to ignore the fact that Skeletor has really low stakes in this episode trying to steal the scepter. Now, what did I mean when I said this was the second best Kobra Khan appearance? Well, it's the moment where Khan volunteers to be part of Skeletor's plot, as both Beastman and Trapjaw pussy out. This really made me respect Khan more as a villain, and he even acts pretty badass while in disguise. Yes, he doesn't really get to use his powers in this episode, but at least he plays a key role in the episode plot for once. But I do have to point out that Skeletor calls him Kobla Khan at one point for no reason.
Know what to do, Kobra Khan.
So in summation, of the 7 Kobra Khan episodes, the 3 which depicted him the best in my view are probably Disappearing Dragons, The Magic Falls, and The Cold Zone. Disappearing Dragons really shows his fighting abilities the best. The Magic Falls shows his character, and his solo endeavor in The Cold Zone is very interesting as well. Sadly, in every other episode, his appearances are really short and unimportant, and though his appearance in The Good Shall Survive was one of the few redeeming qualities of that episode, I would still not recommend seeing it. However, Journey to Stone City and Fraidy Cat are also good episodes in their own right, even if Khan only plays a supporting role in those, so I definitely recommend them as well. And that's all from me for now. Until next time, I have the power, so can you.